1.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ronin Rambles, rather, our podcast for our Ronin Rumble team. My name's Reiki Keto, and I'm here to announce for today, we have a couple of topics that we're going to talk to you about, but I want to first introduce our special guest, Ryan, RCB FGC, who's joining us here tonight, and also want to introduce our host, the one, the only, Higashi!
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another Ronin Rambles. What a set that we had today actually for Ronin Rivals just now. 10-9. What? When does that happen?
10-9.
When does that happen?
Never. This never happened.
Yeah, I mean,
never. We went from blowouts to just close matches.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like, before it was just 10-2, 10-3, then it went to 10-8 to 10-9. I wonder what happened.
I don't know, but we have plenty of footage to dissect. If you guys want to go back and look at the tapes for it, the broadcast should be available on Jeff's stream.
Definitely check it out. But moving on from that, we have Ryan today. Ryan is a TO for Florida. He is also a radio host as well, so he definitely knows how to talk. He has been in the scene just a little bit. He's been in the scene for quite a while now, though, as well. So today we're going to kind of dissect his mind, see what it's talking about for TOing, how it was like to attend events, and working under Jabali as well. Introduce yourself, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit everything. I go by RCB in the scene, which basically are my initials of my name. That's kind of where that is and everything. TO'd a lot of events here in Jacksonville, Florida. A lot of, monthlies, locals, things like that. Very much involved with the FGC scene here in the Southeast, especially Florida, some of Georgia, things like that. Volunteered, worked with events like CEO Taku, another regional that's pretty big in the Tampa area. Tampa Never Sleeps. So yeah, been around for a little bit doing that, and then just a gamer myself and everything as well, just like basically everyone is basically. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, Ryan, you said earlier that you were in the scene for like how long did you say again? It was quite a while though.
I mean, I've been playing fighting games for a long time. Street Fighter 2 obviously was the first one. I want to say though, I've been like part of the scene, a little bit before when Street Fighter 4 kind of like brought everything back, so to speak. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been about 14, 15 years that, been around and stuff like that. So been playing fighting games forever, but yeah, as far as like being in the scene and doing stuff and things like that, yeah, quite a while for that.
Nice. Yeah, that's
a long time.
I'm old. I mean, that's what it is basically. So I mean, it's yeah.
You're not old. You're seasoned. You're seasoned. You're veteran. Yes, seasoned. Because then, if you're old, I have to admit that I'm old, and I don't want to do that.
Fair enough. We'll roll with that then.
Hey, I mean, everyone's got their bearings. Everyone's been through a lot for the FGC, so you guys have definitely been through a lot more than I have. So I'm sure you guys have like a lot more stories, especially. So Ryan, you did TOing in Florida, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So, listen, in the Jacksonville area.
Okay.
Mainly, but I mean, also help out with other scenes. A lot of this, when it comes to like TOs in Florida, we're all basically part of the same group too, like that helps with CEO and things like that. So there's a group goes by the Juicy crew that we've had a couple times there. They help out in Orlando. Tong, who is a big figure in the Tampa area, who's Jabali's, right-hand man, basically. And then another Ryan, Mejia in South Florida. So, yeah, we all, kind of did things for our own regions and everything. And then, obviously, with CEO being around and stuff like that, we also been part of, that group and everything, too. So, It's pretty tight knit group, especially when you look at and talk about like the Florida TOs and things like that. We're pretty close, and we also help each other out with our own events and stuff like that and everything. And we do communicate, when scheduling events and stuff like that and everything. So
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So actually, I did want to ask. I mean, coming from the Bay Area, like in our area, we're never like 30 minutes away, more than 30 minutes away from another community. Like I can go down to freaking Oakland, which is across the bay, and that's like a 30-minute drive. I can go down to San Jose, which is about an hour, but it's not really like in between there. There's also an FGC. So there's like a spattering of people in NorCal, but I imagine in Florida, and at least in the South, it's a pretty significant distance. Like, how do you communicate with other organizers down there, and what do you guys do in order to kind of work together?
I mean, we have like our own way of like talking. We just tag each other in like Facebook messages and stuff like that whenever we're trying to do things, if we need help with something, as far as for like any of our particular events that we do on a monthly basis and things like that. So yeah, it's just basically just instant messaging, things along those lines with that. And I mean, you mentioned the distance. Yeah, I mean, that's something that's definitely a thing to consider too. Like, for example, Jacksonville to Orlando is about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and then Tampa is about 3.5 hours, and South Florida is 4.5, 5 hours. So there's a lot of distance that's between those areas, and Florida is a very big state. So there's just a lot of
massive.
There's a lot of ground to cover as far as that goes with that. But yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, it helps that everyone's super tight knit, and that we all support each other as far as like wanting our own stuff to go well. And then, like I said, when it comes to the bigger events that we're all part of and everything, we also want to make sure that that's the best it possibly could be. So
okay, that's really cool actually. Because yeah, for the Bay Area at least, like the farthest is SAC to San Jose, I think, in terms of scenes. And
that's 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours, like if that. But yeah, Florida, that's it's quite the distance, even like for 4 hours. So do you have to travel to those regions very often then?
I haven't been able to go to South Florida as much as I would like. Orlando and Tampa, though, I do usually make those trips about as frequently as I can.
Okay.
So, because South Florida, it's a little tougher to get down there as frequently as I can with Jacksonville. Now, if I lived in Orlando or if I lived in Tampa, then I probably would have been able to do everything there, because that's kind of like the central meeting point is the Orlando area, for the South Florida scene, North Florida scene.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so we all basically, anything that's in Orlando or Tampa, we're always getting together for those and everything.
Okay, so it's more or less just that's the meeting ground for all you guys then.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so speaking of it being in Florida, I'm sure you guys have some sort of story, such as like Florida man jumps in sewer dressed as bison or something like that.
Wow.
Shouts to Jeff.
Yeah. We've seen our share of Florida man stories. Luckily, not with any events that we've done or anything, but yeah, that's kind of the funny MO when it comes to Florida. You see some weird stories like, just an example, gator gets ran over on a airport runway or something like that. It's goofy things like that just happen, but that's just Florida in general when it comes to that. Luckily, like I said, we haven't had any instances of a Florida man, so to speak, at any of the events that we've done and stuff like that.
Okay, dang, that's really fortunate then.
Very fortunate.
I would like to ask though, do you have your own like characters or personalities down there too? Like, for example, we have Filipino Champ, for example, straight up villain. Not that I imagine that he's not a bad person if you get to know him, but for the greater FGC, kind of seems a bad guy. Do you have people that are kind of like characters like that in Florida?
Well, there's a couple, not necessarily to that big of a name. I mean, Florida has its share of strong players. I mean, Knuckle Dew, obviously, who
also came
really
from
strong player.
Right. Who is also kind of a villain sometimes.
Yeah, he can be.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think of like who else. I know in the Marvel scene, back in the day, Marvel 3 going on, we had Flocker, who is really strong, full schedule for the Marvel scene. Trying to think of anyone that could be current right now. Who
doesn't have to be a bad guy. Like, who do you think also kind of like is another community leader that's in Florida that kind of like brings people together? Like the hero or the protagonist.
Well, I'll definitely bring up Tong, who's a really good friend of mine, Tong Lee, in the Tampa area. And he's been actually doing like a Marvel 3 kind of like resurrection type deal.
Is he the one doing the online tournaments?
Parsec. Yeah, doing online through Parsec on Steam. And he has been someone that is a super supportive individual and has been a really big friend for me too, with helping me get some opportunities to be able to do like CEO stuff and everything. So like he's definitely someone that is up there, and like I said, he's also Jabali's right hand man when it comes to that. So definitely want to give some spotlight to Tong there in that regard, as far as like someone that Reiki was asking about.
Sounds like like a pretty important figurehead for Florida.
Very, very much so. Yeah, I would say like I said, he would definitely be, as far as like TOs are concerned, Jabali obviously top with CEO and CEO Taku, but Tong is definitely the next in line as far as like respected people in when it comes to the Florida scene and everything.
Nice. James, you look like you wanted to say something. James, go for it. Yeah, go for it, James.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, in particular, like, what would you consider your origin story for getting into the FGC? Not just starting tournaments or managing relations with other figureheads and stuff, but where did you actually start?
I would say like my quote unquote passion for fighting games came obviously, arcade era basically. That's where it all started for me, seeing Street Fighter 2 for the very first time and, playing that. And it's like, wow, this is actually kind of fun and everything. What kind of got me more involved with it though, and it was like, seeing how awesome of a genre it was actually X-Men versus Street Fighter, seeing that in the arcades, like walking by that arcade machine and seeing, the infamous Cyclops and Ryu shaking handshake and everything on the title screen. Like, what was more hype than that at that point, So that's when that kind of, made its debut and everything. That's when I was like, all right, yeah. I mean, this is definitely my favorite genre that I want to invest more time in and everything and kind of go from there. But as far as like tournaments and everything, stuff like that, did some local stuff here and there before like it started becoming more and more mainstream, during the Street Fighter 4 era, so to speak. That's kind of like how things, kind of started up for me in that regard.
Nice. Yeah, the Street Fighter versus X-Men, that was definitely a revolution, because before that they just had like the Marvel superheroes, which was cool by itself. But when you do it cross genre,
it was a completely separate genre at that point.
It was very different.
I mean, it all started with X-Men, Children of the Atom. I mean, that was the one that started it basically and everything. But that game, as fun as it was definitely a hot mess with how that worked. And then Marvel superheroes, as you mentioned it. But yeah, the X-Men versus Street Fighter was really, really, the one that like really opened up the possibilities of what that whole, type of fighting game could be with, the crazy action, the hype of it, and just how intense of a game it could be and everything. That's definitely where things got wild with it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. But James, you back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it freeze?
It was frozen for a little bit, yeah. Looks like you're back
Yeah.
though.
Sorry, this would happen. This is what happens when you do a podcast and you are on Wi-Fi.
Oof.
It'd be like that
Yeah,
sometimes. At least
but
you're not
it
playing
do.
fighting games on Wi-Fi. Okay.
I do not play.
Buffer, but it's all right. It's all good.
I would never do that to someone else or myself.
Nice.
That would be terrible. That's a terrible experience. But yeah, I think my first versus game was Marvel versus. No, I played. It was the one with the Infinity Stones.
Oh, it was Marvel Superheroes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it had the Infinity Stones. It was really cool. I played that at the Boys and Girls Club in my neighborhood. Right, they had an arcade cabinet there, and that was my first ever opportunity to play a game from that series, and it was fantastic. So when Marvel vs. Capcom came out for Dreamcast, this is just a weird story for me. It's not really weird, but it's weird to me. I had a friend who had a Dreamcast, but I was too poor to buy a Dreamcast. So what I did was I bought Marvel vs. Capcom for the Dreamcast, and then I went over to his house and played it. So I had the game, but he had the system, and I had to convince him every single time. It's like, hey, let's play this game. He's like, but we played it like 9-10 times already. But let's play it again.
It's a fighting game.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I think that's
It
more
never gets
common
old.
than and I think that's more common than you would think, because I've known a few friends as well back in my heyday that would not have the system, but they would have the game to play and stuff like that. So it's an interesting little dynamic when you think about it in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, systems back then were like $400, $500 or something
Yeah.
like that. They were crazy
Super
expensive back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, PS4 when it launched was like $300, and the PS2 was also pretty expensive when it launched too. I remember either the PS2 or the PS3 was like nearly $500 when it launched.
The PS3 had a
PS3.
$600 version.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
That
Just for a hard
was
drive.
insane.
Yeah, that was.
Nah.
I remember PS2. I made my first purchase on PS2 by doing a layaway at a Kmart. Like, so I was making payments on that system because I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid 2. So bad. So like I was, working and stuff like that, and I just put that thing on layaway and just made payments that way. That's how I was able to get it at PS2 back in the day.
Dang, man. Yeah, back in the day, dude.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was
What you had to do.
But hey, we
didn't have
wanted
an
to play video
income.
games.
Yeah, especially, let's see, when did PS2 release? It was like 2002, 2003?
2001? Something like that?
2001
or 2002?
Yeah, somewhere there. So,
Y'all have an interesting range.
yeah, I was 17, 18 at that time, getting my first PS2, so.
Oh, yeah, so you were just like out of high school
Mm-hmm.
and had to find some way to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's the way it worked.
Yeah, back in the day, man. Rough times.
Great.
Times.
Wait a minute, hold on,
Great
time
system.
out. Time out. Did you just say that you were 17 in 2002?
What,
What?
James? What, James? What are you trying to say, James?
Yeah, what does it say?
What are you trying to
what's
say?
the issue here?
Wow, you don't look a day over 20.
I don't know
Hey,
about
age
that,
well,
I'm
dude.
like,
Maybe there's something about the Aaron
what?
Porter.
Dude, I told you, man.
Even if I could live forever, I wouldn't live in Florida. Sorry.
I don't blame you.
Can't do
I don't blame
it.
you at all. Especially now, it's starting to get mad humid over here. But yeah, PS2, man, that system was amazing. Dumped a lot of hours into, especially CVS2. Like that was the game back then for me.
CVS2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Crackman talks about
CVS2.
That was the North.
Man,
like the
I think
NorCal
that
game.
It was. And I played it a lot in the arcades, but I also played it when I was a kid too. Like it was literally like the mashup you really wanted. And I remember CVS 1. Like that was my first exposure to like the CVS genre.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like a super balanced game, but it was fun. It was really fun to play.
Yeah.
Wasn't it
And
entirely different? Like the 1 and 2, weren't they like completely different games?
Yeah.
No, they were totally different games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for example,
it felt like there were way more characters.
Right. Well, for example, like in CVS 1, you had this character set that was only tied to ratio 1. And then you had this character set that was tied to ratio 2. And then this character set that was tied to ratio 3. It wasn't like CVS 2 where you select your team and then you choose whatever ratios you want for those characters. So, for example, Ryu was just a ratio 2 character. That was it. You couldn't change him like that. Sagat was like a ratio 3. Blanca, Sakura were ratio 1 characters.
So you had to pick certain characters for your team then?
To make up your 4 ratio.
Oh, wow.
So you could play a ratio 3 character with a ratio 1 character to make your ratio 4. 2 ratio 2 characters to make your 4. Or play 4 ratio 1 characters to make your 4. And then it had its Capcom system and then its SNK system. That was it, just those 2 that you could choose from. And then obviously COS2 expanded on that with doing, here's your 3 Capcom systems that you could choose from, and then here's your 3 SNK systems you could choose from. So it's 2 very, very different games. But yeah, and the one thing I liked about CVS 1 that I wish they kept in CVS 2 was like as they're going into the match, right? They all had different like stage transitions, so to speak.
Oh, you're speaking to my heart. I miss custom like intros and the love that's put into people entering in a stage. It just felt so special.
Especially when you get to the final boss, like if you're fighting Geese as the final boss or whatever, and it's doing the whole doors opening into his estate, into his dojo part of his estate and everything. Like there were some really, really cool ones back in the day. There was another one that they did. I'm trying to remember. I'm thinking it was this. There was one where like you see like a 16-bit race car or whatever that's driving down and then it wrecks and it goes and then it shows like the stage of where the match is taking place.
Oh wow!
They got super creative with that and everything. Man,
I'm kind of curious.
90s, early 2000s Capcom games, there was so much stuff put into it that was just like makes you really, really miss it, especially with what you're seeing now, obviously.
Yeah, it kind of made me curious, like how long it took for them to make a game back then, because like the Alpha series 1, 2, and 3, they were like maybe a year or so apart from each other. And like CVS2 was like a couple years after that. So like
well, I mean at that point they were just upgrading their systems and like upgrading, mechanics and stuff like that and everything. The sprites and all the art of the game is already laid out. So it's just tweaking, the balance of the game and everything. And
to make like a quick go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, well, and back then you didn't have as much. You weren't really putting in a lot of like code or data at that time that you're putting into today's games.
That's good. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. James?
I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. Like some of the animations in CVS 1 were actually pretty detailed. And they really like slimmed that down when it came to CVS 2.
There's
Just
lot
a little
more
bit,
characters,
like
right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a
Well,
lot more
I mean-
characters they put in CVS too.
And it was a different
yeah,
company.
but I mean, they also was it
yeah,
really?
I think SNK made CBS 1, and then Capcom made CBS 2. I think that's the story behind it.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah, it's like completely different like games basically, so it makes sense that it's a different company.
Yeah, but I definitely mentioned that they built on CVS 1's success
Oh
because
no.
it. I mean the. Oh, what'd you say?
Oh, I think I see what it is. I think you were thinking about the SNK versus Capcom, the Chaos one.
Yeah, that's
the one SNK.
okay.
SVC Chaos.
Yeah.
SVC Chaos.
I
I
see.
think was
Capcom did
after.
both CVS's.
Oh, okay. I was corrected. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm like, huh? Capcom would give. I didn't think that they would give anything.
It's easy to confuse because there is also that version that they'd come out, and yeah, that one, the SNK version of that was kind of a hot mess.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Once I'm here, I'm right there with you.
So, actually, I just pulled up the Shoryuken wiki for the game, and I'm looking at the list. And I'm like, man, these are a lot of characters. But I always feel like in Capcom versus SNK games that they really just don't do the SNK characters justice. Like, maybe that's just me, but I always felt like all of the SNK characters are weak in the Capcom versions of those games.
It's
kind of.
The thing was though, like the Capcom systems were just so strong, and certain characters just benefited from that a lot better.
Like freaking S-Groove. Come on, man. They could have made that a lot better.
Yeah,
if I can do a dodge and then I could cancel my dodge into an attack, that would be great. But it prevents me from doing that, which is bad. But C-Groove can roll cancel? Okay. All right, I see how it is.
I rocked K-Groove.
Well, everyone rocked K-Groove. You would love to do 150%. Well, is it 150%? Probably around there. You do like ridiculous amount of damage when someone hits you. And also just defending.
I was going to say, you instant block and you gain some of your health back and everything too, stuff like that. So, yeah, K-Groove was amazing.
Was. Definitely hurt. K-Groove Cammy was... K-Groove Sagat was scary too.
That's who I played. K-Groove, Cammy, Sagat, and for fun, Rock Howard.
That's the only game aside from KOF 14 where Rock doesn't suck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tragedy.
His main game, Garou, Mark of the Rules, he was the pro tag, but he was the worst character in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
My friend Isaiah, Negro New Type or Negro Ninja, however you want to say his name. Anyway, Isaiah would constantly tell me how when he played in CVS 2, he loved Rock, but when he went to Garou, it's like, this character is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to play Rock, but I don't want to play him in Garou because in Garou he's terrible.
Kuja brings up a good point too. That's the other difference with CVS 1. CVS 1 was actually a 4-button game.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
I remember that now. Then you brought that up. Yeah.
So was it just like light and heavy or something like that? Then?
Light and heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot closer to SNK games because most SNK games are 4-button games too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like adding in extra buttons is still pretty good too. Like they would have to have made more normals, and that's exactly what they did with CVS 2. Since most of the sprites in SNK games probably only had like light and mediums or light and heavies, they had to like make up stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
which is true. I mean, it was whatever.
But it was still a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much a fun game.
Yeah, no, it was a great game. I love CVS 2.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've only played it like super casually, like against CPU, because I was not really old enough to go out to arcades back then. But it was still fun though. It was really fun. But yeah, we talked about CVS 2 and all those older games. quite a bit here, but I wanted to try to mention Ryan's Twitch channel where he's been starting a new series called Ryan Learns, correct?
Yeah, RCB
Ooh.
Learns.
Mm-hmm. RCB Learns.
Yeah, that's been a cool little experience because, like, I wanted to dive into some fighting games that either A, I never played before, or B, I may have dabbled in, but it was just like you were saying, just played it at a casual level and, actually try to spend time in, like, actually breaking down what the game is and everything. So I've done 4 games so far in that series. The first one I did was Yatagarasu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was an experience. But that was the first one that I did.
Oh,
Skullgirls was the second one that I did. And that game's amazing. Like, I've been cracking out on that game like crazy. With how it is. Higashi, you'll appreciate this. The third one was them's fighting herds because I actually had someone gift that game to me. So I was
really? Sick.
yeah. So I was like, damn it.
You have to play it now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm obligated now. I have to play it. And that game's fun. It's
very fun.
Interesting little charm to it. I don't
the
know
aesthetics
if it's
is it's very different for most people.
Right, yeah. I don't know if it's a game I'll continuously play, but hey, it's there, and netcode's good with it. So, and then the fourth one, the most recent one I did was Melty Blood.
Melty Blood.
So yeah, so I did
love that game.
Yeah, that one's really fun too. So those are the 4 games that I've done in the series, and it's been pretty cool too, seeing like other people from those communities actually coming in and like actually helping you learn the game and stuff like that. Which Skullgirls community is been a really awesome community that's came in and is like, said, oh, this character could do this, or oh, you could do this in this situation and stuff like that and everything. So that's been pretty dope with that. The next game I'm trying to decide. I'm either going to do Chaos Code for the next entry, which is kind of like a more anime version of King of Fighters.
Yeah, I played Chaos Code.
Yeah, it's kind of more along those lines. Is either going to be that one. I'm trying to remember the other ones that I had listed.
Oh, you have a list.
I do, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I don't want to pull it up.
You ever consider Rumblefish?
Rumblefish?
No,
Rumblefish
2?
Oh, is that the arcade game?
So I have played Chaos Code, and I played Rumblefish and Chaos Code in the same place, which is Southtown Arcade. Mm-hmm. It was an arcade that was in San Francisco about 8 or so years ago. And Chaos Code, now you make a really interesting comparison to KOF because it does have like kind of like fast-paced play for some of the characters, but I also kind of feel like it's more like Blaze Blue or even Guilty Gear, to be honest.
In a sense,
because of the unique property.
Yeah. But with the movement and everything, it can be. That's why I said it was a more anime version of KOF, because it does kind of have those attributes to it. But you also, just like KOF, where you go into like your max state or whatever, right? When you go into your max cancels or whatever, it's the same thing that Chaos Code has. You go into like a state, so to speak, where you can just continuously link supers together and things like that and everything.
Your custom combo system. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So that's why I made that comparison with it. Rumblefish, though, no, I don't think I've heard of that one. There was another one though that was someone referenced it to me. It was called what was it? Umineko was what it was called.
I think I've heard of that game before too.
Golden Fantasia, which is a 2v2 style game.
Okay, I've heard of Golden Fantasia.
Yeah.
It's like a PS3 game, right?
I think it was, but it's also on Steam now too and everything. But it's based off of a visual novel that they made into a fighting game, basically. With that, and hey, I'm a fan of tag games. We mentioned the Marvel series earlier. CVS2, which is owned different, but I mean it's still a team-based game. And a game I played quite a bit of, BB Tag, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I played a lot of it. So
That game's crazy.
yeah,
So-
and now playing Skullgirls. So
Yeah,
obviously,
like a bunch of-
team games are, the thing is probably I enjoy the most. So when I was
Nice.
told I was that, I was like, all right, I'll add that to the list too and see what that one's all about.
So you've been playing fighting games for a pretty long time now, then, and so you try to play anything that comes out that's new, right? For the most part.
Yeah. Either new or, like I said, and with this series is just like just trying out different things,
Right.
because there's some games out there that may be kind of like a diamond in the rough, so to speak. Maybe a game that isn't really well known, that maybe deserves a little bit more exposure than maybe it gets.
Like it never got the tournaments for it, but it may be an awesome game. Like the game that James was mentioning, Rumblefish 2. I think Jeff Yoon showed me a video of that game, and it was kind of like Street Fighter 4 a little bit, where you can like.
It's made by the same people that did Street Fighter 4.
Oh really? Oh okay. Well, that explains it. Yeah, it's like infinites almost in that game, and like a bunch of busted stuff in it too. But
I'm actually gonna Google search it right now and take a look.
Rumblefish 2. But
2 it's a pretty fun game. I played a lot of fun games when I was at Southtown Arcade, to be honest.
Yeah, but Ryan, so I wanted to ask you, so since both of you actually, so when it comes to learning a new game, do you guys have a good formula for it? Because Ryan, since you've been learning these new games, like Skullgirls, like them Fine Herds, and the other games that you mentioned, do you have like some sort of formula that helps you delve into these games?
Yeah, I mean, I try to look for things that appeals to what I personally like. One of my big things that I've always looked at as far as whether I was going to enjoy a particular game or not was like how it flowed. As far as like, movement and, pacing and momentum of a game. So like, if it was smooth, if everything, transitioned well and it made sense and things like that, typically I'm okay. If it's kind of, kind of clunky or kind of herky jerky, stuff like that, those kind of games I kind of tend to, be away from in that regard. So, I look at that as far as, how it just kind of feels in that regard.
All right, James. Go ahead, James.
What's up, James?
Okay. So, do you like games with air movement or running? Or running.
I like air movement.
Okay.
So obviously like I said, where I've been more successful, quote unquote, so to speak, when it came to like playing days and stuff like that, have been games where there's a sense of kind of like chaos to it, and there's also, the crazy movement and everything. That feeling of like, pulling off something really dope and being a badass at the same time. So the game that kind of comes to mind that I think I've gotten the most enjoyment out of, in a game that kind of is close to my heart is Guilty Gear. Especially the Xrd series. Like I played a bunch of the older Guilty Gears back in the day, but I was super young and it was casual and, just kind of just, hit buttons with my friends. Guilty Gear, especially Xrd, I credit to this day as being the game for me personally that actually kept me in the fighting game scene.
Nice. Okay.
Because this was also the ending years of Street Fighter 4, arcade edition had come out and everything, and Super in that series was still my favorite game of the series. So then when arcade edition dropped and what it was, just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And like I was just completely done with that Street Fighter 4 series. And there wasn't really anything else out there at that time that was like keep my interest and keep me in until, like I said, I had a group of friends. Marvel 3 was Like
Ooh.
Marvel 3, kind of the same deal. It was starting to run it kind of ran its course. Especially like playing, the other ones, the Marvel versus Capcom and MVC2 and stuff like that. Marvel 3 was good for what it was at that time, but at that same time, it kind of ran its course. Now looking back at that series though, like, and especially like I said, see my boy Tong with what he's done with his Marvel Parsec tournaments that he's been doing, like reflecting back on that game and stuff like that, it was amazing. But like I said, at that time, it just kind of ran its course. So my friends introduced me to Guilty Gear Xrd, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember Guilty Gear, but I hadn't played this or whatever. And yeah, that game is the reason why I stayed in the FGC stuff and everything. So the Xrd series will always hold a kind of like I said earlier, just a special place in my heart when it comes to that.
Nice. So like going back to the whole learning new games thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go to training mode first, or do you do the trials or tutorials or anything like that?
Usually training mode. It also depends on what the game has to offer.
True.
So, for Skullgirls and for them's fighting herds and everything, yeah, we did the tutorials to get an understanding of how each game, worked and everything. And with those games too, they had tutorials for the game mechanics, but then they also had character specific tutorials as well. So you can kind of, decide on which character you want to play in that. And then after that, yeah, do trials to get a basic knowledge of like what you could do with combos and things like that and how their structure works. And then after that, yeah, go into training mode and then, explore and kind of create your own options as well with, what you're trying to discover when labbing things out. So that's kind of like what I do.
So you don't go to like YouTube then for combo videos. You kind of just see what you can do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I kind of want to see what I can do on my own first, and then afterwards, I'll go and look up, YouTube, or even go on Twitter and type in a character hashtag or stuff like that, and then pull up whatever's available there. I mean, that's the other cool thing is it's like, man, I'm trying to imagine like how the other games, like if like social media and the resources that were out there today was around with like Marvel 2, for example.
Oh man.
Like how crazy things would be with that. I mean, could you imagine social media, being around during the years of Marvel 2 and all the storylines and all the craziness that was happening then that we know of just because of word of mouth and lore, but with social media element added to that too? Like it would have been,
because you wouldn't
insane.
be able to. Hiding tech back then was such a big thing, and if you were to stream tournaments like we do now, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same at all. It would be completely different. Yeah. Like regions would play very similar to other regions, because like back then, I think regions just had a completely different play style.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's actually like pretty.
It worked because there was.
Oh, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that and it worked because there was just so many silos of play. People lived in these little microcosms, and I think that's why those stories are so memorable and so fantastical, because we don't live in that world anymore. We don't live in a world where you can hold where in some cases there are unsung heroes or small time people that you never get to see. There are definitely people like that. But the fact is, if someone is doing some serious damage in a game, you know about them because it's just so hard to be invisible in this day and age.
Yeah. If you play online, someone knows who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to actually try to stay under a rock and not be discovered.
Even then, I have still
exposure that's out there.
Yeah,
I have an example of that too.
Okay, let's see it.
Yeah. So, for example, there is a player in KO14. His name's Decimo. and we used to play him a lot in KOF 13. He was pretty good back in the KOF 13 days. He'd play online, and he was decent. And then fast forward 6 years, and then we have KOF 14 come out. And then I see a similar person that shows up in the rankings, and he's doing serious damage. Like, he's getting perfects on some of the best people playing online. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I look back, and I'm like, oh, I played him a lot in KOF 13. And the fact is, he never goes out anywhere. Like, the people in Chicago know that he wrecks face everywhere. Like, anywhere he goes, he completely destroys people, but he never goes out to any majors. And the one time someone managed to get him to go out, he almost beat the champion for KOF 14, Reynolds. He almost beat him like solid.
Which tournament
in a set,
was this?
all the way. It's Combo Breaker.
Combo Breaker, okay.
Yeah, it's like the first tournament he'd ever gone to at any major, and he was already in like top 3.
There's a player that's also in our group that's very similar to that. And he was one of the best Bedman players in Guilty Gear. Went by the handle Potent Shell. Kind of a fun story with him. So he would only go to like final round as CEO and stuff like that. Those would be the only 2 things he would go to, right? Final round this particular year, which I don't know if you guys have heard some of the final round lore, so to speak, but sometimes
Toilet tournament?
Logistics wasn't exactly one of the strong suits with this particular
toilet tournaments.
Yep. Yeah. So they were all there for Guilty Gear, but there was only one setup for Guilty Gear before like the day of the tournament. So like they were trying to find a way to get casuals. So they had to buy in to a high roller tournament in Guilty Gear just to play casuals, so to speak, right?
Oh, wow.
Well, Potent Shell gets to top 8 winner side in this Guilty Gear tournament, and he dropped out because he was too drunk and he needed to get food.
Too drunk
It's
and
one of
had
the
to get
greatest
food.
stories ever. Yes, he was hungry and was a tad drunk. So he bounced out. He was like, I got my games in. I need food.
So he just left the tournament. he paid his money. So you said it was a high roller tournament too.
It was like a high buy-in tournament that they did or stuff like that.
So that means he spent like at least like $20 or $30 just to play some games.
Yeah, just
and
to
then
play
leave.
Casuals. Yeah, and then left because he needed food and stuff.
Nice.
And I want to say that year he got 9th at final round.
Oof. The curse.
Yeah. Lost to Minus, who's one of the best Eno players in North America. In that set. So you bring up like hidden gem players, so to speak. That's definitely one that comes to mind because he always was able to get out of pools and always made a really, really strong run to get, compete to get into top 8 and stuff like that. So that's a player that kind of came to mind in that regard.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of like hidden gems, did you guys watch the Combo Breaker retrospective?
I did not. We were doing Ronin Rumble at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's like also like VODs and whatnot for it, but if you have not seen it though, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I need to. I know, like I said, during that weekend we were kind of doing our own thing with Ronin Rumble and stuff like that. But I was trying to check it out here and there, and everything. But yeah, with a little bit of free time, I'll definitely had a plan to go check that out.
Right. But like speaking of it,
yeah, I want to check it out too.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's one of the best, like just in terms of being on stream and whatnot. It's just great. Like it has a bunch of games that had the underdogs winning and whatnot, and it shows a bunch of the hype moments, like Sarvet's Mugen game. Sarvet's All Stars, and they did like a supercut of it, and that was hilarious. That was just so good. Like, and then they show a bunch of the mystery tournament stuff as well. I highly recommend just checking it out if you ever get the chance. It's
Yeah,
super fun to watch.
Yeah, the mystery tournament games, Combo Breaker especially, but I know Frosty Faustings as well did mystery tournaments and everything too. Those are just incredibly fun to watch because you don't know what to expect and stuff like that. And like some of the games they pull out is like, what the hell is this? Like you've never seen this before.
Like some of them are like shmups and like what?
Yeah, like it'd be a game I'd never seen before. It looks like super weird, but then I hear someone in the background, "Oh, this game's hype! I can win this one." I was like, "The hell is this?" You know,
right?
So it's like, wait, how obscure are you? But no, it's very fun.
I actually have a friend that goes for those mystery tournaments. His name's N4US. Man, every time he goes to an event, mystery tournaments, and he comes out in first too because he plays all these obscure games.
Yeah. I mean, they're out there, man.
It's like once you get a game that you're really good at, you're just like, yes. Hell yeah. This is my time.
My time to shine. Yep.
And for the Sarvets All-Stars, you know who Crime Brian is?
I've heard the name.
So he played Noel Brown in Marvel 3, and there's a YouTube video on it. And he lost, and then he ended up like crying. And then if you check out the video, you'll find it very funny. But basically, he became kind of infamous for it. So the Sarvets All-Stars, he was in grand finals and he ended up taking it. So it's like the redemption arc for Crying Brian. He's no longer Crying Brian.
That's funny. Yeah, I have to look at that. Check that out.
But
yeah, I might give that a look to see too. There's so much rich, like, there's so many stories that happen in big majors like this.
Combo Breaker, like, for some reason, like, I've never been to it, but I always hear so many stories about it on how amazing it is to go and how it's getting so big and just the 24-hour venue being so amazing. It's like
I will say, as far as tournament experience goes, and this is putting aside CEO and CEO Taku with the events that that I help out with that and everything. Pure tournament experience, Combo Breaker, hands down, was the best for me.
Nice.
And it was cool too because I got to see like a really close friend of mine actually get out of pools for the first time ever. When he was competing in BB Tag, and that was cool. Like a lot of us had in some shape or form had at least gotten out of pools in some retrospect in a certain game we played. For me, it was Guilty Gear. A few others, it was Guilty Gear. And this particular friend who was really, 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 really good at, almost every game he touched, just whenever it came to a tournament, this was not able to break that glass ceiling. Yeah. So Combo Breaker, last year, to see him finally break through that, barrier and actually get in, get out of pools and stuff like that was a very enjoyable experience for me personally in that regard. So that was also the last tournament that I ever competed in, and I was just like, I'm done now.
Yeah.
So you're like done? You just never want to compete ever again?
Nah. I enjoy playing games and labbing out and playing, long sets against people than, them playing tournaments and stuff like that and everything. So
I mean, if you're still attending, you're also supporting your friends as well.
Right, exactly. And I have my own. Right, and I'm also contributing in my own way as well with helping out with the bigger events and everything, and also what we do with Ronin Rumble now, on a weekly basis. That's kind of like my way of contributing now and everything. Don't need to stress and season myself more with tournaments and stuff like that. Been there, done that. Kind of accomplished everything I wanted in that regard.
So
because I mean, it's
keep going.
Because I think one thing is like to get out of pools, especially now, is a really, really difficult task. If you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I mean, you
have to kill. You have to beat at least one killer
Yeah, at least. And like, not even considering winning a tournament, so to speak, right? Um, but you imagine like all the people that enter these things, and there's only one winner. Like, it's hard, man. Like
It's very
it's really,
hard.
really hard. And I always give kudos to people that always try to compete one way or another, and they may go 0-2 forever, and then they finally get that first one and everything. I mean, it's hard, man. It's a grind,
Yeah.
especially with you're playing against a lot of people that maybe have an equal skill level and things like that, and one bad decision can make it rough and everything. It's just it's hard, man. Like, it is a grind to be able to do what you need to do in that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy to keep up these days with all the tech and all the good players out there.
Yeah.
It's very daunting, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, and like
That's
you
true.
mentioned, with all the resources out there and everything, and sure, say what you will about online here and there, and some games function a lot better online than others, and everything, but that's still something that's out there as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's a lot more open than what it used to be,
Yeah. And it's like you don't even really need to play in tournaments to have fun in the games. Like you can just play with your friends or
Right.
play at locals or whatever. But like the most fun though is winning and beating people that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when you get gratification out of that, that's all you really need in the end. But
Yeah.
but speaking on like your decision to go from being a player and entering tournaments to TOing more. So I guess this is a question for both of you guys because Reiki, you also do a lot of TOing for like WNF or NorCal in general. So my question
Yeah.
is basically like, what made you guys want to become TOs and then keep going like through the process of helping out the players and giving like managing tournaments? Like, what was your drive basically?
Ryan, do you want to go first, or you want me to do it?
I guess I can go first. So
I defer to you, good sir.
So my motivation was our area, Jacksonville, had a very unique history as far as like community leaders that tried to run tournaments in the area. The problem was it was never consistent. You know, it'd be good at certain times, but then it'll be drop off, and then like it'd be nothing happening this month, but then all of a sudden, oh, there's something happening this month or anything. It was just super inconsistent. And we had a lot of really strong scenes in our area. I want to say, like, for us, our two strongest scenes are the Tekken community here in our area, and then also the anime scene in our area. Are two strongest. And I guess what it was is that I saw how good our communities were and everything, and especially on a regional level. Like, there was always some player from our area that was able to do well and things like that. So I wanted to try to bring something that was going to be consistent and help elevate not just the competition for our communities and everything, but also just elevate those communities as a whole. And so, we started up our monthly series and everything that we did. Unfortunately, though, we're not able to do it anymore because of everything that's going on and stuff like that.
Of course.
And there was also some other roadblocks that took place that was a little rough, to say the least. But
was it just you?
We had a very
or did you have a team?
It was I organized everything, but I was working hand in hand with a buddy of mine that goes by Villa 904.
Shouts to that guy.
Yeah, Villa 904, who he's doing his own thing now and everything too. But yeah, we worked as a team to bring really a very strong regional monthly series that we had. And it got to a point too where like we actually did one of our events like inside a TV studio too.
Oh,
And
really?
things like that in Jacksonville. Yeah.
Wow.
This big huge TV studio that was like wide open and everything, that we were able to host a series in and stuff like that. And everything too, to kind of show the local TV crews that was at this particular TV studio what an esports event looked like and everything, so to speak.
Wow.
Quote unquote esports. And that was like kind of like the pinnacle of where it got, but it also set up more opportunities for some of our guys to get noticed and get not big sponsorship opportunities, but an opportunity to maybe play under a certain org or be able to travel to like some different stuffs and everything. The venue that we did typically have these in, unfortunately, is no longer. GLHF Game Bar in Jacksonville is where we had our venue and everything.
Sounds familiar.
Well, here's the reason why, and this is the reason why it kind of stalled. That was also the place the Madden shouldn't took place.
Oh, damn!
That was our venue that we did our events. And little side note, and I don't want to get too much involved in this too, but I was actually there the day that happened too.
Oh wow!
Man. Yeah,
that's traumatizing,
to say the least. Yes, and it took a while to get, but like we weren't able to do an event for a year and a half because we had
that event.
Yeah, we didn't have a venue, and it just took that long to kind of recover from everything with what happened with that.
Yeah, that's really hard to recover from.
Yeah. So that's that was kind of, but during that time before that incident took place and everything, I would say our monthly was like one of the strongest ones we had. But those were the reasons why I wanted to do it, was to give our to give the local community that I was with a place to play consistently, but also elevate those communities to be able to elevate themselves and be able to get opportunities and everything. So that was the reason why I did it.
Yeah, that's a good reason. Having a consistent local is pretty important, if you ask me. Like, if you do it only like twice or 3 times a year, it's kind of like, well, that's so much experience compared to like other regions that say had Wednesday night fights, a weekly on a daily basis, or weekly basis, I should say. So yeah, that's a good reason though. I respect that.
Yep.
I'd have to say that open tournaments, especially double and single elimination, they tend to be harder for people to grow in that environment. But what they really are good at, and what I feel is really important, is they allow people to build those relationships, those lifelong relationships that they'll have in the community that keeps them there, as well as spurs them on to keep practicing getting better. I think that's why open tournaments have survived for so long, and why invitationals are, I wouldn't say that they're frowned upon, but they're definitely not something that the entire FGC kind of invests in.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, not yet at least, but I still think that having some form of open competition is the way to go.
It changes everything, yeah.
Yeah, and I can commend Ryan for doing that so you could exemplify your scene. And not only that, the players who are in that scene.
Yeah.
Going back to what I think you're asking me that same question too. Really, I started doing it because I didn't have a home. I literally was doing like tournament organizing at Southtown, and I was doing that to help out Southtown. Like, I'd run multi-blood tournaments there, or I'd help out with the KOF brackets when I could. But for the most part, I just was a player, and I really enjoyed, I enjoyed all of my friends. We only had like 9 people show up every Sunday when we were playing KOF 13, but those 9 folks were like my family, and I really enjoyed spending time with them, and they meant a lot to me. And then the place closed, and we had nowhere to play. And it's super duper awkward because none of us had enough room to hold everyone there, and we just drifted apart. So I saw that, and I saw that my scene was practically dying, and I wanted to do something about it. So I just looked for venues where I could play. I went down to Sunnyvale Golfland. Not Sunnyvale Golfland, I'm sorry, Milpitas Golfland, which is actually 45 minutes away from my house.
Yeah, because you
and at that time,
right?
I didn't have a car, so I had to take my own equipment, or I'd have to get Joe Capsule Flores, really good friend of mine who is a tournament organizer in our area, to bring equipment there, and then I would run the tournament with him. I did that for a little bit. I'd work with Young Center to try and do KOF stuff. I try to work with Foundry. Any place that opened, I tried to help out and just keep my community afloat and create a space where we could play. I played a lot of other games. It wasn't just KOF, but I really just wanted to support my community, and no one else was doing that. Like, there wasn't anyone stepping up to say, hey, I'll be the person that runs brackets. Hey, I'll be the person that's talking to these venue people.
What was the time frame for this again?
Well, Southtown closed around 2013, probably. 2013, or either 2013 or 2012. I'm not sure, but it's been a long time. But around that time, I just was bouncing around different places around the Bay Area to just get people to play, encourage them to come out, and just being the person that's on the sticks willing to play with somebody else. And I learned a lot of different skills. Like, I was able to collaborate with other people, like local TO, like Joe Capsule Flores. I was able to just work with venues in venue spaces to try and run stuff, maybe one-offs. I learned how to run events in bars or in boba shops just so that we could play. And I'd go from grassroots to big events. And gradually I just got so used to it that I would branch off to other games, and I would help out with events at the Foundry. Even if it wasn't KOF, I'd just help out in running brackets, or I'd go down to Sharkade, I'd help with Tekken. I'd go to Wednesday Night Fights, and I'd practically help every single game in running brackets, in organizing players, just being a tournament organizer. And that I just expanded from there, and I started helping out with regional events like NorCal Regionals and Evo, and just bouncing all over the place, just helping when I can. Not because I felt like I'm really good at it or it's something entirely passionate, something I'm passionate about. I like tournaments, and I think that they're really helpful, but I don't think like they're the best way to learn how to play a game. I feel like if you have closed sessions with other people, it would be much better for people to learn. And I try and do that, or at least set up sessions for that. But for the most part, I do it because there weren't very many people that were. And I saw a need, and I just filled in that void.
So you stepped up.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's I would say that's what you did. You stepped up, whereas no one else really did. And you wanted to take it upon yourself to create more of a scene and a place for everyone to gather and collaborate and play games and have fun.
Yeah. I think the largest product I ever tried to do was this thing called Max Cancel Cup, which brings me right back to Combo Breaker. I was saying that we needed some sort of cohesive way of getting all of the King of Fighters people, the communities, to kind of come together. And a friend of mine, Benjamin Martinez, also known as Vicio, he said that he'd be willing and down to collaborate. So I worked with all kinds of people from Colorado to Texas to Florida, New York, Minnesota. And we just kind of came together and we came up with this idea for Max Cancel Cup, which is basically a whole bunch of events where we would say to the KOF community, hey, you should go to these events on this circuit to encourage people to go and play together. And then we would all kind of converge onto Combo Breaker. The whole idea was that people would play in their regionals. They would get points for the circuit, but still be able to play in places that are nearby. And we would all go to just one tournament at the end. So at least everyone would go to two, and they'd still feel comfortable about being able to play or feel like they're competitive, so they don't have to travel everywhere to get points. That's in Combo Breaker 2018. And we got a giant belt for the winner. And we worked with Combo Breaker to make that our finals, and we presented the trophy to the winner, which was Uero Asamiya. And I got on stage with a whole bunch of my friends like Gibby and Pedro and VCO, Hawaii Monkey. I had a whole bunch of people on the stage with me to just kind of congratulate him. And it's one of my crowning achievements. I thought that collaborative was a really successful project, and I really wanted to build on it, but it just didn't seem like that was in the cards.
Well, hey, maybe you can do it again sometime. Probably next year. Hopefully next year at least. But
well, the next year after, the Neo Geo World Tour launched, and that was kind of the unofficial tournament for the King of Fighters tournaments.
Okay.
So I didn't want to run it. The reason I didn't want to do it is because there wasn't a need for it anymore.
I see.
I thought I could do it better, but in all honesty, I only want to fulfill a need for my community. If there's no reason for me to do something, I'm probably just going to put my energy into something else.
I see. Yeah, speaking on belts, actually, Ryan, so you've been working with CEO for a while now. So we're coming up on time a little soon here, but I was wondering if you had like a good story from CEO from your side of things, like from as a staffer.
For CEO, I mean, CEO's alwa's been fun because, not only are you, helping out with the games and brackets there and stuff like that and everything, but, CEO, Jabali always likes to do an extra thing, to make his events unique, like how he introduced the wrestling with New Japan and then AEW at CEO and everything. So seeing the wrestling shows and like being able to meet like Kenny Omega and stuff like that was pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
In that regard. As far as like a personal story, it's actually more towards CEO Taku. But seeing my good friend Sentenchi last CEO Taku win Dengeki at Taku was a really, really awesome experience there because, and he's a local here in Jacksonville, Florida guy and everything, and that was a game he's very much involved with that community and everything. But like the fact he was able to see like a personal friend of mine actually win a tournament at an event that I was helping run and stuff like that at that scale was pretty cool in that regard. So that, and also seeing another friend of mine, Ricky Walker, beat Sonic Fox in Dragon Ball at CEO Taku was a pretty cool experience.
That's right.
With that. So yeah. So those were fun experiences when it came to those.
Nice. Yeah, speaking of Suntenshi, next week we're gonna do the anime podcast, so he'll be there as well.
He'll be there.
Yeah. He's I mean, we talked about that before when he was on the podcast as a guest, and he was definitely I couldn't tell if he was choking up a little bit, but I think every time that you mention it to him, he's always just like super proud of it, and he's always and he deserves it, If you win any major of any sort, that's sick. Like, what else can you really say about it?
I can definitely, expand on how much that meant to him. Because we actually drove down together for that event, and he talked about like how much he wanted to win that tournament and everything. Especially, the whole deal where it's, it's in his home state, basically, you know, kind of in his backyard in that regard. It was, yeah, seeing it there and everything, and like watching that happen and everything was like a really, really dope moment.
Nice. Yeah, that's it's great. It's always fun watching your friends succeed, especially in a game that they're really passionate about. But yeah, I do believe we're coming up on time here, so gonna do a little audible here. But so Ryan, you're on the ground. Your opponent's got Oki. Do you mash, tech, or take the throw? First thing that comes to your mind.
Let's see, because I'm trying to think what game
Anything.
this would be.
Just the first thing that comes to your mind. Say it. Anything.
See, I'm wearing a Yang Xiaolong shirt. You know, and Yang's from Ruby. And Yang was also my main and BB tag. So I would say I am waking up with a armored 5B, to say the least. And getting that counter hit.
Hell yeah.
And if she is in goes red health too, activate semblance and get that extra damage and everything. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
Oh, Ryan, you mashing 5B.
Ryan is a certified masher. But with that,
no shame. There's no shame in that game.
There's no shame in that game. That game is degenerate.
It is,
but everyone loves it. That's definitely one of the games that I really like playing. DP assist? Hell yeah.
Yep.
But
that was the thing.
So with that, anything you want to plug here as well? Twitch, YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, I'll plug more my Twitch channel, which finally, I shouldn't say finally, but you know, kind of a little bit of achievement. I finally got over 700 followers on my Twitch channel now, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Which is twitch.tv/RCB_FGC. Is it primarily fighting games, but I do some other things on there too. I'm doing like some throwback RPG playthroughs on there too with Legend of Dragoon and the original Nier. So doing those, and as well as doing like the RCB Learn series that I was mentioning, stuff like that as well. And now also adding Phantasy Star Online 2, since that's now available to play on PC. So that's kind of what you could expect on that. So
hell yeah.
That's the channel though. If you guys want to check it out, you know, greatly appreciate the support. Again, that's twitch.tv/RCB_FGC. And also, yeah, just want to say thanks to you, Higashi, and you, Reiki, for allowing me to be a guest tonight.
And thank you for dropping by and giving us your
thank you for joining us,
chatter and whatnot, for TOing, talk about Florida. Too bad you didn't have any Florida man and does also, XXX, but yeah.
Nah, didn't have any of those. No, thankfully.
And also, thank you for being part of the team. You're part of the team that really helps out in making Ronin Rumble smooth, and I think everyone should really know how much you really help out in making each week better and better. So, just from me, thank you for being my teammate.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's crazy that I think it's been like only a month or something like that too, but yeah, no, it's been enjoyable.
Feels like years we've known each other.
I'm about to say, I think it's been I
think it's more
way longer than
like
a month.
Yeah, I think it's more like
definitely
2 months.
Feels. Yeah, it feels like a long time, and we've only been kind of doing this for 12 weeks, really.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Ronin Rumble is not even a year old yet.
Yeah, but it's been fun, and it's been a very unique and cool experience. So,
all right, nice. Yeah, but yeah, once again, thank you for Ryan. Thank you to James. You guys have been great. Thank you to the chat as well. I did not even know Dimitri was Kuja415. I thought that was someone else, but I didn't know he even changed his name. But yeah, so we're going to raid JP here. JP's cool. He's playing Infinite right now for some reason. But yeah, once again, thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Ronin Rambles. We'll be here again next week after Ronin Rivals for the anime version, Ronin Ramble, where we'll have myself, Kion, Suntenchi, and Sonic Soul. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys later though. Peace.
Stay tuned though.
Stay
care, guys.
tuned.